Hey guys, good morning. I just want to make a quick video. It has to do with seasons. It has to do with like whatever you're going through has an end, an expiration date, as it pertains to storms or wilderness battles, etc. And seasons. New seasons come and take the place of old seasons. But I wanted to touch on that because in the natural, seasons come by way of time, right? Um, just because a few months pass by and we enter into a new season. um, that's partly true when it comes down to the supernatural. I'm learning more about this. I'm learning more, so bear with me and study with me, and iron sharpens iron, and let's go back and forth in the scriptures and get down to the nitty gritty. But as of right now, where I'm at right now with the Lord, this is the revelation that I have. And so the revelation is this: seasons are partly about time, entering into a new season when it comes to God, partly about, yeah, for sure. As it pertains to storms and stuff like that, all of that has a set time to start and end. And it's all meant to test you and kind of like push you towards the calling of God, right? God brings tests both to refine you, to build you, to edify you, as well as sometimes to just smash you, because he is the potter and we're the clay. And sometimes that clay, that person is just practicing a whole lot of witchcraft or sorcery or anything like that. And sometimes God just needs to break them out of that identity, break them out of that sphere of influence. And sometimes that looks like mayhem happening to that individual all around. And they just kind of like get weeded out of that lifestyle, by way of the turbulence that happens in their life. And that comes in many different forms, but ultimately it's love on God's end, because the end outcome is you're going through it and you're getting smashed to break you out of something that's a lie. It's a lie, and they're believing a lie. But God's ultimate revelation there is to bring them to the source of the truth, to the knowledge of the truth, so that they can walk out their true purpose and identity and not live that life. So yes, I believe that when it comes down to the supernatural, partly about seasons, partly about time and how time decides when a new season begins. But where I'm at right now with the Lord, I've entered into a new season myself as it pertains to what God is starting with me now. And it has a lot to do with my movement towards progression of what God wanted to see in me to bring me into that new season. We don't flip the page in a book until we read all the words on that book, on that page, and then we flip the page. Likewise, it is my conviction that we don't move to a next season of blessing, breakthrough, whatever, until we learn what God wanted us to learn in the last season, until we capture what it is, the essence of the character. We climb that ladder, so to speak. We did the work, the sacrifices. We've been molded into that by the potter. We've been molded into that, looking like, okay, you've now passed, like you're going to your next season now. So, like it could look like you sacrificing a bunch of stuff, that like decluttering your house. It could look like you like having a hard heart towards tithing and offering because it's been defiled in your life as like, oh, prosperity gospel and this and that. But then God, like in a roundabout way, like softening your heart and this and that, and then you start to see the blessings of giving to God with a cheerful heart, as opposed to out of grudge or anything like that. Like when God molds you in these types of ways, and people get the concept of what he was trying to teach them, and God adds to it like character as it pertains to how they treat one another and themselves in different ways, and giving God time and this and that, well, guess what? That person is now bearing fruit, and that person is ready for the next season. And so I think, yes, it's part of time, but I think also it's through our progress, and it's through our obedience and our just our cooperation with the Lord, that we are able to move and transition from the last season to the next season. And I believe that we don't get to really transition until we fit the mold that he's trying to get us to do. Because otherwise, it's like passing a child from one grade to the next grade without them ever learning what God wanted them to learn in that grade. You understand? So that actually happened to me in school. I would get passed, but I didn't learn anything in that grade that I was there. And I would now be learning greater things in the next grade. But if I was lost in the last grade, what do you think is going to happen to me in this one? You understand? So God doesn't do that with us. You got to understand what he wants to teach you and where you're at now. And I think that you move forward only when you give in to his ways. And we just stop being stiff-necked. We stop being like stubborn about our ways, right? We're never going to bend God. We're never going to change God. And a lot of us think that we can. We don't admit it with our words, but we try with our actions and with our ways. We're just like, I don't want to do that. And we're fighting God and this and that as if we're going to change him. It's not going to work. And plus, it just doesn't work well for us in the sense of us not cooperating with God. So we just delay our blessings, we delay our season, we delay everything. So it's like the wilderness and the Israelites for 40 years. It's like that didn't have to take 40 years. You made it take 40 years. This could have been a one season, one and done, on to the next chapter. But you didn't learn your lesson. So we stayed here 40 years. And I just think, you know, we gotta see what God is trying to teach us in the place that we're at, and take a good look. What does he continuously bring around you over and over and over again that you're not learning your lesson on? Is it people? Are you learning your lesson with people? Same friends bringing you down, this, that, and the other, and God is saying get rid of them, and they continue. Okay, you're not going to your next season until that is dealt with. Is it money? Are you just splurging and spending money and always asking God, I don't have enough? Right? We got to be good managers. When God says don't buy that, you don't need that, don't do it. Is it food? Do we make, because food is, we don't talk enough about food, but, God has been convicting me about food, and my wife too, and my friends in church. He's been bringing up food and say, hey, listen, you guys are just making food out to be more than what I created it to be, right? In the sense that, it's there to enjoy, but the Bible says put a knife to your throat if you're given to gluttony. So in other words, don't be obsessive about food. It's just fuel for the body, right? That's all it is. But when you put it up on a pedestal, it starts to become like an idol. And there's verses in the Bible that say their God was their belly. In other words, like they loved food so much that their God was their belly. Imagine that. So yeah, man, it's just one of those things. We gotta see what is God checking us on, and through that, our convictions, we enter into the next season. You're asking for God to do certain things in your life, and I'm just trying to tell you, the season changes when you change. You're not going to change God. This could take 40 years if you wanted to, or you can just break. Let that part of you break. That part of you that doesn't want to give in, let that part of you just say, all right, I'll do it. Or it could take 40 years. It's up to you.